Welcome back to the Psychedelic Timeshare. I'm here with my co-hosts Ian Ben Weiss, where we're both getting rich off of GameStop and Bed Bath & Beyond stock. We're joined by a couple veteran friends today.
Yes, we've got Sam G and Ben M, and we're going to be looking forward to talking to them about their healing journeys with plant medicines after their military service. And Sam is going to be the feature of our presentation, and Ben is going to be helping us with some of the interviewing process. So, Sam and Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Beautiful. So, Sam, you and I actually met a couple years ago in Mexico around the medicine. And what I know about your story, as we've gotten to know each other, is that you grew up in Texas and you served as a Marine infantryman in Afghanistan, 2 different tours, and then came back to Texas, and since then have been on your own healing journey, which also included, besides Mexico, going to Peru. And so we're here today to allow you to share more of your story and see what you'd like the future to look like. And then we've also got Ben M on the podcast, another veteran who's going to help us with some of the questions with Sam. So does that sound about right, Sam, what I said about your background?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Awesome. So what was the reason that you joined the military to begin with?
I just kind of felt a calling, to serve. I remember I was in maybe 6th grade watching 9/11 happen. My cousin was in the South Tower, and so it really motivated me to want to be a Marine like my grandfather was.
Nice. So you did 2 tours of service in Afghanistan, and you how soon after you were done with your last tour were you out of the military? You came back to Texas, right?
So 2012 is when I did my last tour in Helmand province, Sangin River Valley, and I got back mid-November to late November, and I was out of the military the next March. I had EAS'd.
Beautiful. And for our listeners, what does EAS stand for?
End of active service. So that means I fulfilled my contract honorably, and I was driving back towards Texas.
So you received an honorable discharge, completed your time in service, and then what happened? Had you been given any medications while you were still on active duty?
No, I had not received any medications. The medication that was real common around the barracks was just beer and booze.
So you could get that in Afghanistan on the base?
No, that's back when we were main side. We didn't. You weren't supposed to have alcohol over there, but if there's a will, there's a way. But it wasn't commonplace.
Got it. So you came back and returned to Texas after being stateside for a little bit after coming back from your second deployment, and then what happens? Tell us how your healing journey, your personal life journey goes.
So I fulfilled my contract, and I'm driving back to Texas, not really knowing what I'm gonna do.
So did they give you any sort of out processing, like training or anything like that?
It was like, I think 5 days. It was like a 5-day.
What did they call it?
Seps and taps.
Break it down for us. What's that?
Separation, preparation, something.
Some acronym.
Yeah. One of many that they use.
Yes. So you had this 5-day program to help you do what? What was it offered to do for you?
It just lets you know, hey, you can't go to the corpsman, you can't go to the local, you can't see a doctor on base anymore, so you've earned, rights to the VA. This is how you go to the VA. This is the form that we're going to fill out and you're going to give to them in your respective city and state. And then also they cover a little bit about the GI Bill. You're eligible to go to school. We encourage you to go to school. But honestly, it was so much information, and at that point, I really wasn't. I was just focused on getting out. So
what did you need at that point? Because you said there's a lot of information, all different kinds of stuff. What did you really need for those 5 days if you were deciding what it was you were going to get that you would have asked, asked for or gotten?
I would have spoke about things I didn't know at the time. Now I know about things you can do that are healthy.
If you were going back and you got to give the briefing for the 5 days, some of that work to some of the people that were getting out when you were in, what would you be telling them?
You need to find a comfortable private place and a good shaman, and you need to do ayahuasca. It will help you immensely.
Wow, so that's so in the manual there, the ayahuasca vouchers at the VA. So how did you come to that point? Just a little while ago, you were still in Afghanistan, to the point where you were now telling your future self, or however it goes, that you should do ayahuasca.
Well, I came back not knowing really what I wanted to do, and they, off the bat, I was prescribed so many different medications, and they weren't helping.
Let's check in with that. So these you came back. Were there certain things that you were experiencing after your service that you were telling the doctors that they were then saying, okay, for that we need to do something, and the thing we need to do is give you these pharmaceuticals, and they're going to address a certain condition? You know what I'm saying? Were you saying, hey, please help me, and they're like, here's the meds there to help? It
was more like, yeah, please help me, and here's Seroquel.
Well, what is the help? What is the help then that you were saying that you needed?
I was having trouble sleeping. I was really stressed out. I was still post combat deployment in my perception, so I was over perceptive.
It's like hyper aroused, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I was very hyperactive. I was very, very much. My mind was going a million miles a second.
Got it. So you were saying that you'd been briefed as you're getting out that the VA is there to offer you this assistance, and now you're back home, and you're like, hey, I'm having nightmares, and I'm having anxiety and hyperarousal. What can you do for me to help? And how did they address that?
How they addressed that by prescribing multiple medications, and they wouldn't work. It really decreased my quality of life. I couldn't be productive, and then I'd tell them that medication didn't work, and then I'd be on a new medication, and it was before you know it, just kind of spiraled out of control into, okay, the VA's not giving me anything that's healing me, so I'm gonna self-medicate to try to do for myself what I felt I needed at the time before, and that was before.
So you've got these symptoms, and you're saying, hey, here's the symptoms I have, and they're giving you the pharmaceuticals ostensibly to address those symptoms, but they're not getting addressed, and you're getting other side effects. And this is why you're saying
more medicine.
But also why you're saying you need to self-medicate, because you're not getting the relief for the symptoms that you have.
Correct. And I was lucky enough when I was really having a really rough time, really hitting rock bottom, just feeling completely lost and hopeless. I had a really good friend of mine say, when you go to Mexico, you should try psilocybin. You should try ayahuasca, maybe a grandfather ceremony, which involves peyote. And I've done all of those, and they've helped me way more than any of those prescription medications combined.
Beautiful. So how did you get from the medications? How many medications per day were you on at any given time?
Through the VA, usually I was taking 2 to 3 different prescriptions every day, multiple times a day.
Got it. So how did you know that these plant medicines were an avenue for self-medication? You know, so you're on these pharmaceuticals, and we know that one of the challenges is that they have these side effects, and then you go back to the doctor and say, hey, you're treating me for the stuff, it's helping or not helping, whatever, but I've now got this side effect, and then they have to give you another drug to treat that, right? So,
right. I remember one time I was so stressed out. They gave me something that caused my hair to start falling out, and I was like, how can this possibly help?
What was
anything?
What was it supposed to be? What was the
it was,
symptom addressing you were trying to get from it?
It was like supposed to be a mood stabilizer, and it was making me more stressed out because I'm going
so
bald.
I'm like, as a bald guy, I'm totally cool. I'm like, right, your mood stabilized.
Well, common for mood stabilizers is anxiety. So then they're just trying to give you some anxiety medicine to cover that.
Right. And then that makes you have diarrhea, so they give you some diarrhea medicine, and then that gives you, your stuff doesn't work, so they give you a thing for that, and then that causes you to have headaches, and they give you something for that. Then your hair falls out, and then the whole cycle starts all over again.
Is your mood stabilized now, Charlie Brown?
How did you know that these plant medicines were a viable alternative to the cycle you were on?
I had a real good friend that I really trusted her input, and she had done a lot of research and she had used it in her past for her own healing, as well as for her son that experienced a traumatic injury. And so she put in a lot of research, and we talked about it, and I started to feel really good about it, really confident about giving it a shot, because I had hope that, hey, maybe I've tried everything else. Let's try this, and let's see if it helps. I trust you. Let's try this.
Did you have to be off the pharmaceuticals that you'd been on from the VA to be able to do these plant medicines? How did that work?
Yes, I did. So when I worked with the shaman, I was fortunate enough to work with the shaman in Peru. They put you on what's called a dieta, which just is a diet to cleanse your body. There's certain things you can't eat. You can't be on any prescription medications, and there's a week or two process before you do any ceremonies to cleanse your body and prepare your body in the best way to receive the medication.
That's really part of the diet, right, itself. And then, and as well afterwards, right, there's continuing, protocol that you're maintaining to get the whole effect of the medicine.
Absolutely. It's a cycle, and the ceremonies are in the middle of the cycle. So you have leading up to the ceremonies themselves, and then post ceremonies to
integrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what were these ceremonies that were in the dieta? What medicines were you using?
I can't remember. We did ayahuasca, and then there was also some.
So the ayahuasca ceremonies are the thing that you're saying are in the occurring during this dieta, and then you're using these other plants in between.
Right. Yeah. There's other plants that you took in the evening, every night, and it helped. It worked, in a symbiotic way to the ayahuasca. So it was all, complementary of each other.
Do you remember what any of those medicines were?
Not off the top of my head.
Did you do some tobacco purge?
I did a tobacco purge, yes.
Tell us about that. Everyone loves to talk about tobacco purges.
Well,
I know I do.
Well, tobacco, it was difficult for me because I'm not good at chugging water.
Wait. You were in the military. That's
I-
what they say. Put your right hand on your canteen, take it out, and drink your water.
And I was always the last guy to finish, and so
Okay.
everybody had to do push-ups because of me. Because I just could.
So you had some
I gave it my best.
hang-ups about I'm just.
I gave it my best, and chugged a gallon as quickly as possible, and then it like a wash cycle kind of turns your
So
stomach.
explain to people you're drinking this shot glass of super concentrated Mapacho Peruvian tobacco, right?
Correct.
And then you're drinking water after that to flush the whole thing back
Correct.
out.
And it works to kind of grab all the stuff you don't want in your stomach lining and release it, purge it out so that when you take the ayahuasca, it's got clean surfaces to adhere to work with.
Got it. So when I was a kid and I ate chewing tobacco, my missing ingredient was I didn't drink a bunch of water afterwards when I felt totally sick with that nicotine poisoning.
Yeah, it was definitely
Don't try this at home, kids.
It's and that was the first day, so that was like, wow, we got off to a really strong start here. So but honestly, after I did the tobacco purge, I felt better. Purging that stuff out, along with the diet. The diet was real strict. It was like hard-boiled eggs, no salt, no sugar. You could have chicken, unseasoned, just chicken. You could have like quinoa, but not seasoned, no seasoning, and water and coconut water, and that was pretty much it.
Man, they need to get Martha Stewart up in there. Wow. So, okay, and so you're doing the ayahuasca ceremonies. What was that like?
So I'll tell you about my first ceremony, which was to this day has been lasting and incredibly powerful for me. The shaman had said, have an idea in place, be thinking about something that you're asking help with from Mother Ayahuasca, the divine. Have a purpose for when you go accept the medicine. And so I was presented the medicine by the shaman, a shot glass. I took it. Didn't taste too good, but you're allowed to have water, so I was able to drink some water right after. And then we're in a pitch black room, so it was just quiet and laying. And I remember for the first 30 minutes, I was like, what's this hype all about? What I heard this was supposed to be really powerful. And then there was a second round of medicine, and I said, okay. And, I took the second round, and I went back, and I was laying there in the dark, and I was wondering, I was like, what is all this fuss about? And then I started to hear a drum beating and the maracas and the feathers, and I sat up and purged everything in my body into a bucket. And then instantly, as I laid back, I felt like I was in space, like they had no concept of what was up or down. The only thing that centered me was when my head hit the wall behind me that gave me a reference point. And what was really powerful for me is I saw sacred geometry. My mind just expanded. It showed, wow, this is what the expanse can be. And then all of a sudden, I realized, have I been breathing? Am I breathing? Have I been breathing? And so all of a sudden, it went from this giant expanse to all that matters in life is listening to the sound of your own breath. You have control over that, and that can heal you. That's how you can control the different energies around you. So that fear of, am I breathing? And then finding my breath, when I had lost my breath, it reintroduced me to how to breathe in this world.
Well, that is inspirational. So what did you come out with from this dieta in Peru, with the diet, the ayahuasca, the tobacco purge, these other medicines? How did you come out the other side of that?
It's really hard to describe. It was all positive. That's why I highly recommend it. I wasn't stressing and overthinking things. I wasn't carrying like the ego. I wasn't carrying different energies that were unbalanced. I felt rejuvenated. I felt as if, hey, I can handle whatever's thrown at me because, at least I know how to breathe.
Beautiful.
And so
that's a powerful tool. So were there specific traumatic events from growing up or things from the military? Were there specific things that you addressed in those ceremonies?
In its own way, yes. The purposes I was seeking were shown to me. They were taught, the way ayahuasca teaches you. You don't know what lesson it has in store for you that ceremony, but it will have a lesson for you, and it's a different one every time.
So what guides the lesson then? How does the ego deal with that if you're going to get schooled but you don't know what the lesson is? That sounds scary.
Well, that's why it's really important to have good shamans and to work with really good shamans, because they help. They're your spiritual guide through the process. They're helping you. They're there for no other reason but to heal you and to help you, and that is what is also powerful about the ceremonies.
They give you like boundaries, like comfortable boundaries to let you sort of explore your own self.
Exactly. And we did, in some of the ceremonies, we did something where we all joined hands, and it was really powerful. It was very powerful.
Wait, it wasn't super woo-woo?
No, it wasn't super woo-woo. It was like I'm in a circle of energy, and we're all connected. It's flowing through all of us. It's all one.
Well, that sounds super woo-woo.
When you learn that the super woo-woo is actually super cool, then you're just like, let's keep going, right? It's
beautiful.
It's almost like, ayahuasca showed me that you hold the keys to your own kingdom, and so any door that's locked is because you chose to have it locked, and you have the power to unlock it.
Bless you, man.
So that house has many rooms. Beautiful. So you came back from Peru where you'd done this dieta, and what happened in your continuing personal journey?
So before I did the ceremonies in Peru with ayahuasca, I was having trouble maintaining jobs. I tried to go to school. I couldn't manage it. I couldn't keep up with it. Post ayahuasca ceremonies, I'm back in school. I'm pursuing a degree I enjoy, and I don't need medications to feel like that's what I need to go to school. I'm able to manage it, and I can manage my money. All qualities of my life improved. I'm now just got a VA home loan on a house, and I would never thought that would have been possible prior to doing those ceremonies.
So so doing the medicine work allowed you weren't having the nightmares, you're not having the hyperarousal or the anxiety, and then you've learned and experienced things that are helping you navigate your life in a more functional way. What are some of those details? Because I think those are really important to people.
Some of those details. So, I'm a combat veteran, all that, and a lot of people, they kind of enable you with PTSD when you come back, 'cause they say, "Oh my gosh, you served there? That was a horrible place." I read the Wikipedia. It's scary, and it's almost like they're they're expecting you to have PTSD, which in its own way is unhealthy because you're not given the chance to solve the problem for yourself. When others try to solve your problems, they usually don't get solved properly. But through ayahuasca and psilocybin, they're tools and medicines so that you solve your own problems, so that you solve these lasting problems. You solve them, you finish the equation. You're not constantly trying to do a new one from input of other people.
Here. So the tools that the military or the VA's offering aren't allowing you to solve those problems in a stable and functional way that you can keep on repeating the equation. And so, right, and then go ahead.
They're not. I've even been in the inpatient VA mental health hospital, and you go up to a window, you get a cup, they give you pills. It pretty much just sedates you, so you don't feel good, you don't feel bad, you don't feel at all. And it's not the right approach. If I could lobby for anything, I would say, the federal government has so much park and wildlife land. Why can't they set up a refuge for veterans? And those veterans, when they go there, if they want to partake in safe, healthy medicines that heal, can do so in a private, beautiful place. And I know there's some people that view ayahuasca as something other than medicine, but it's medicine.
I think the reality is that the system isn't built that way. It's not intentionally, but I mean the military machine, the process is building machines to carry out a task, and then they're throwing the refuse. There's no integration with the truth about experiences in the military, and it's just because they just either missed it or they just intentionally didn't set up that way. So I think the training's built in us, ultimately.
Well, I want to nominate Sam G for Interior Secretary, since now veterans can all access all national parks for free for life. Let's turn those into these refuges that you're referring to, and we can do the medicine work on these federal lands.
If people really want to help veterans, combat veterans, that's what's going to do it. What's been
a container.
Yeah. That's
what kind of container would you like to see?
There's a lot of different federal lands and national parks, and we don't need a lot. Just beautiful places that are very serene, have good energy, and little private cabins, and then a almost like a temple that everybody can gather to if they want to do medicine, not just by themselves but together, or be led by shamans willing to, who most of them are more than willing to come aid that healing process. And they've been doing the same military or VA formula since Vietnam, and it hasn't worked. Suicide rates are always going up. It's really sad because it is really beneficial to do these medicines. It can save your life, and I'm not saying that to try to.
Well, the reality too is that ancient tribal cultures would bring their warriors when they would come back from battle or war. They would segregate them and give them medicine, peyote in the Americas, ayahuasca in South America. I mean, it's a real traditional thing that we missed. We didn't do it. This iteration of the military, we just didn't do it. So yeah, I think that knowing that historically that's a used process is a very idealistic way to carry forward what we're seeing, because this is Vietnam 2.0. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. 40%, increase in suicides in the Army just from COVID. So we know it's bad. So yeah, it's like,
Well, so how do we break out of that cycle? In other words, we've got people who have possibly experienced childhood trauma, experienced service trauma, experienced combat trauma, then they come back and then they're given these meds which don't allow them to have deeper, further processing of their experiences. Like you're saying, it's compressing their signal. How do we, in the VA, that's all they got.
Right.
How do we transition so that we have a model that's workable, that's viable?
I think they get funding, so it's just a matter of the land wouldn't cost them anything because it's federal land. It's just a matter of, okay, should we spend more money on these inpatient mental health hospitals, or could we use some of that money for something that's much more beneficial to combat veterans seeking help, that really want help, somewhere peaceful where they can go and self-reflect and ask themselves and find out what their problems are and how they can solve them for themselves.
Awesome. So it's impossible to you got to address politics, right? So are we trying to get decrim in state and municipalities so we can see this? Are we trying to deschedule these medicines? We've got, just for reference, we've got Canada next door, which has got medical and recreational cannabis. They're talking about
military use.
Yeah,
Right.
Beautiful. Decriminalizing psychedelics so that to deal with the opiate crisis. And in Mexico, you've got a medical program just rolled out, a recreational program about to roll out in a couple of months, and personal drug use being constitutional by the Mexican Constitution.
With plans to import processed cannabis as well into Mexico.
So
I think how it can be done is these retreats, these places of peace, can be designated hospitals at which medication is administered by a shaman who's trained like a doctor, or a doctor that oversees it, in case somebody does have some sort of you do have
Crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's.
exactly.
So would these guys come from this? Would they, if they were military, would they come from the space forces? Is that where we'd?
Outer space.
Do you love
force.
Do you love America? Wow. So I like the future you're talking about. What do you think about what's going on here in Texas as far as the cannabis, the drug war? What's important to you about the political rallies? In other words, you're talking about these visions of doing these things, and we're all in agreement, right? We want to see the same kind of things, but we've got these political rallies where the stuff's all Schedule 1. The medicines that are inside of us are also illegal. We don't have any kind of medical cannabis program.
Right.
So,
well, I think for states like Texas, for the majority, our views, can differ from the majority and others, but I think starting the conversation at the state capitol about taking baby steps, introducing, and for the majority, it'll be easier if it's introduced in baby steps, and they'll say, hey, nothing happened, nothing's wrong with it, nobody's dying from it, this isn't bad, it's helping. Now more people are healed and they're sharing their stories. Let's keep it going. Let's build upon that so more people can be healed, because they're going to have more stories from people, more testimonies of positive healing experiences than negative ones.
do you want to see a future in the United States and in Texas where these medicines are completely, let's say, decriminalized, descheduled, where you could grow them and take them, and if you wanted to work with a shaman or a guide or a facilitator or a practitioner, or whatever words you want to use, one could have that option? Or if you wanted to go work with a psychedelic therapist, one could have that option. Or if one wanted to do it with themselves, someone else, you'd have what kind of options do you want to see, or what kind of options do you see when you look in the future?
What I would hope for is, at least personal amounts of these medications decriminalized, and any of these medicines you want to do in the sanctity of your home, you feel free to do it, and you should do it. If you want to do it with others, by yourself, shamans available to help people that are a little nervous about it, uncomfortable with it, that are new to it. I'd like to see all that be available, especially for veterans, but not just veterans aren't the only people that have PTSD. There's
So you're talking about like personal use protection.
Correct.
Yeah, and you're saying that you'd like to see this for everyone. The veterans, we know we've got this voice and position to amplify the need for healing and ending the drug war. But yeah, what would you like to see for other people?
The biggest thing I like to see is the people that are in pain, that are suffering, having the opportunity to feel better.
That's what they got all the opiates for, right? I'm just saying 75% of Americans who are heroin addicts started on a doctor's prescription. So how do we get from that to ayahuasca or mushrooms?
Well, one thing that's extremely beneficial also about ayahuasca and psilocybin is, I used to drink a lot, and I'd self-medicate, and it was also a very useful tool. And during my journeys, realizing I don't need that stuff. I can control what I put in my body. I don't have to feel like I need this to feel a certain way. It gives you that freedom, and it helped tremendously. And they can help a lot of other people as well.
It helps people literally get healthier. It leads you to, obviously, it kicks you off in a dieta, and then, that's really the beauty behind this stuff.
Right, and that dieta got me into, oh wow, I can feel better by diet. Eating healthy, intermittent fasting. Give
us the lowdown. What are all these? Yeah, the techniques and practices that on this medicine path you started to integrate in a regular way in your own life.
So me personally, I do what's called an 18-6 window with intermittent fasting. I do it daily, so I won't eat until 4 p.m. I'm done eating at 10 p.m. And then in between that time, I'm not eating. I can hydrate, all that. And at first, you may experience, I'm feeling kind of tired, but you will, and not long after that, you'll start to feel more energetic, because it's much more natural for the body. If you think about it, our bodies haven't changed in 10,000 years, and so we used to spend all day with a spear, going out, wearing ourselves out to get that food.
We were fasting as a byproduct of just existing.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't get lucky one day. You're fasting until you get lucky.
What the interesting thing, the real reality, is that after 12 hours, your body starts to release growth hormone. And your awareness, your attention, it gets heightened because we're pre-trained to say, I'm hungry, and I'm going to start to think about going hunting. So all your senses get aroused, and everything starts to work better and more efficiently, and you conserve energy. So it's a good thing to push your body to that.
The great thing is how adaptable the human body is, because it didn't take long for me I'm not even hungry when I'm not fasting.
Yeah.
My body, it's just normal for my body now. So it's not...
makes you realize you don't have to just go,
yeah,
I need to eat, it's meal time.
And so when you do eat, you can think about it more. What's healthy? Can I do salmon or some chicken, some broccoli, some Brussels sprouts, some coconut water, some unsweetened tea, some kombucha, and putting that, planning that out and making it part of what humans have done for thousands of years, where you get food, you prepare it, you cook it, and you eat it. You don't have to always get it handed to you through the window of your car.
And you weren't on this before the medicine path.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of everything drive through.
And now here you are. So, yeah, we've got a new administration with a chance for more cannabis and psychedelics descheduling, decriminalization, acceptance at a federal level. And we've got this Texas session here where we don't have a viable medical program that we're looking at improving. Yeah, what do you see in the next what's coming? The psychedelics are going mainstream. People are talking about investing in them, you know.
Right. And what I'd like to see happen, what I see coming is, Texas has Texas Veteran Commission that focuses on vets. So you can form a committee in the state capitol, in the state senate, state congress, to take a non-biased approach at looking at these as viable alternatives to prescription medications. And you can do that at the state level. You know, there's a in Congress there's a committee that for the VA specifically. I think the conversation should be happening with them, where they can get very knowledgeable people to not only and not just testimonies from people, but scientific proof. And I think that if you look at it and you're open to it, you'll see how helpful it can be for you. You can't be closed-minded about it.
The data's out there too.
The data is
everywhere.
So you've fought in war and you've done 2 combat deployments. What is the reason that it's important now to end the drug war, which is a different kind of war, but
I think
part of the same somehow?
I think it in some ways one of the byproducts of the war on drugs is violence in the countries producing the drugs, because it's a competition, because so much money's being made sneaking across the United States, digging tunnels, however they're getting it here, flying it here. If it was regulated, cannabis, for example, if it became federally legalized, you take the power away from these violent criminal organizations, and you can tax it, and you can use those taxes to fund these medicine retreats for veterans, among many other things, new roadways, infrastructure, schools.
Amen. So let's back up now. So you were in Helmand province. 90% of the world's opium comes out of Afghanistan.
Correct.
We've been fighting there for over 20 years. What did you think before, and then when you're on the ground there, and then now take us back to your views on the drug war.
So
and why going over there is not going to end the drug war. You know what I mean?
It's not going to end it. That they've been growing opium there for thousands of years. Opium's been being used for thousands of years. And the thing is, what I saw endless fields of poppy. But the people actually going out there with the razor and scoring it and getting the milk from it, to then sell, they're selling a kilo of paste for $200. They're not getting rich off of it. They're doing that because that's the only way they have to survive and feed their families. But then as soon as it gets out of the country...
Yeah, what's the markup at the Purdue Pharma level, whether they got to turn around and pay the billions of dollar fines for
it's
underrepresenting the addictiveness of all their synthetic opiates?
No, and what they don't realize is the greed and the lust for money, the what they felt as a need for it to be done hurt people. It actually killed people. People died from opiates, and they were incentivizing doctors. And it's sad because you have people that have a pound of marijuana, which could be a personal amount for them, doing more time than the people that made $8 billion and killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, well, how does it make you feel then if you're over there and you're seeing all these fields, and in one way you could be feeling like you're protecting those opium, poppy fields so that the medicine can come back to the American pharmaceutical manufacturers and they can give it to somebody, and then people are overdosing. Yeah, what does that make you feel like?
It felt it didn't feel nice. The thing about it was 90% of the world's heroin is there. So there's going to be a lot of guns there. That's why it's considered one of the most dangerous places in Afghanistan, because people want their drugs. The Taliban, that's how they fund their arms. They trade it with the Russian mob or whatever, opium for AKs. And it's not helping anybody.
Title
And
of a
then
book.
yeah, and they're giving them crates of old rusty ones, and they're making billions selling it in Europe. They move in north up into Uzbekistan and then into Europe. Not to mention, it also goes the other way towards China and the U.S.
Well, so you pointed out very correctly that if we have a regulated market, let's say for cannabis in the U.S., we can tax it and then invest it back in the community. How is the United States benefiting from an unregulated market where it's controlling the source of the drugs coming in from Afghanistan? What's the U.S.'s motivation to play it that way?
They'd save a ton of money because the amount they spend on fuel for drones, for Border Patrol, who's to fight these drug smugglers, and the drug smugglers are winning. 10% usually of what they're trying to get across gets seized. So they accept that, and so it would save a lot of energy, focus, and resources towards things that can truly benefit people, like school.
Well, do you feel that you're being used because in one way you're already paid for? So in other words, the government's already paid for your services. They can take you over there and help manage their, drug supply over the long term.
It did feel a little bit like being, a muscle man for the USA.
It's weird.
Because,
It's
for
weird.
example, I'll give a small example. We come across a very large amount of heroin, like over 100 kilos of heroin. We were going to blow it up and torch it. We just had to film ourselves doing it, right? But that got called off because we didn't have authorization to do that.
What level got your attention?
Oh, that's not guns and ammo. That's heroin. Oh, you can't burn that.
Yeah, no, that's a battalion level choice, right? You got to, like, if a battalion drug officer's got to come in.
It's above that.
See?
It's where it's actually it's part of the Afghan government, where we don't have the right to dispose of it. We have to give it to the Afghan National Army, which is corrupt, is very corrupt, and they're selling it to the Russians too. So it's we could have burned it right there on the spot and prevented 100 kilos from poisoning people or hurting people's lives, but we weren't allowed to, and then a 5-ton truck that we gave the Afghan National Army came to pick it up. So taxpayers funded the transport when it got picked up, and it's.
So the U.S. is the dealer. So then the money. So this is the. Who's driving this truck? Sorry, the Taliban.
No, the Afghan National Army, right?
And then where does that is going to the Russian mob is the next likely, or
all I ever saw were the trucks leaving.
Okay.
Where they went after that is, I mean, I can make a guess, but where they went after that, I didn't personally see.
Yeah. Appreciate your honesty. So, wow. So we've got this petrochemical war we were fighting in Iraq, and this pharmaceutical war we're fighting in Afghanistan, and you make a lot of these pharmaceuticals out of petrochemicals, and even the MAPS phase 3 clinical trial, the sources for the MDMA is out of the petrochemical byproducts. So how do we break out of this petroleum pharmaceutical model?
I think people. I think it's powerful when people can have open discussions and come together, because if you can come together and you're trying to heal and you're promoting love, not hate, you're not trying to divide people, you're trying to make the world better than when you were born. When you die, the goal is for the world to be better off than when you were born.
Sounds like the journey of a mushroom.
It exactly. So it's all one. But the sad thing is, the climate change is messed up. We're hurting our planet. We're killing sea life. It's just a lot of devastation and destruction, and it can all be prevented. There's technology out there. There's technology being developed every day. More efficient solar panels, batteries, hydrogen cars, and so it's really getting the politicians to stand up to big oil and gas, big car makers, and say, no, you have to stop making combustion engines. You have to do it by this time. You have to stop distilling petroleum by this. You can't.
Are we thinking that people are more looking for like an example as an alternative? Because it's easy to say. It's like It's like you look at the quarterback on the field. Like, you should make this decision. But if there's no alternative, then people don't know what to do. So then they're like, well, I have to either go with what I know. It's like the devil I know or the devil I don't know.
Right.
Well, how do we empower taking care of our own health care and our own ability to grow or make things that can be used by other people? In other words, we're talking about the healing part of the equation. How do we empower individuals to take care of themselves when, let's say, there's this decriminalization, descheduled environment?
That's one of the things that's beneficial about the medicine is it teaches you how to empower yourself. It teaches you have power, and the more people can start having non-biased, open discussions about some of these things, take politics out of it as much as you can. Look at the facts, look at the studies, and let people have their free will. If they want to take this medicine, nobody has the right to tell them they can't.
Amen. What is the reason that having a right to grow as a veteran is important? Because you've gotten the VA treatment, right? And then why is it important?
Well, it's very important to grow plants, period, because it gives you that connection to other living organisms on this earth. So you're having a symbiotic relationship with this plant. You're watering it, keeping it alive, nurturing it. In return, it exchanges medicine for you to nurture yourself. And so it's sorry, go ahead.
No, and let's, I guess, not be frank. Veterans have a tendency to isolate when they're going through processes, and so having the ability to have a resource to get seeds, spores, whatever, and then produce your own medicine openly and freely will help them to take the medicine and then connect with other people. Because that's what the medicines do. Like, we're so stuck on we need to have a person teaching other people things, and we're so afraid to say, well, the plants can teach us stuff. And that's really the teachers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
I agree.
So you're saying, Sam, that beyond taking ayahuasca and getting, visual and whatever other kind of energetic information back on how to organize yourself in your life, the actual experience and relationship of growing plants, whether they're visionary or not, in itself is healing and connecting you back to the earth and empowering you to wow, I can grow a plant and the plant can help me live.
Absolutely. I mean, we used to, as long as we've been around, we see a fruit, we learn to eat it. And, we weren't just cutting down trees back then. We'd just take the fruit and leave the tree alone and let it live so it could have more fruit one day. And little did they know that it was also doing so much for the planet, processing these
balance.
It was a balance. And so anytime man puts something makes the world unbalanced, which it's a little unbalanced right now, the world also adapts, and it's going to try to balance to heal itself. And so you need to be aware of that.
Cue COVID-19.
Right.
Wait, aren't we the virus though? How do we
virus
how do
fighting
we
the
how do we
virus,
yeah,
yeah.
how do we avoid the earth from balancing us out because we're a pox
That's the
on
thing.
the
That's the
planet?
ultimate. That's like the ultimate thing. It's realizing that we're not necessary.
Yeah.
Then we'll be allowed to live.
Yes. we will allow
I
you to live.
testify as a member of the human race that
Yeah.
I am not necessary for the earth to live.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'd like
you-
to
you
give a
do.
shout out to all the aliens out there. I'm a friend. And just please don't be too upset with what you're seeing because that's not everybody. And I just want to say hello. And welcome to our planet.
Wow. Well, I think that's probably a great place to bring this whole thing to a close. This has been awesome and amazing and enlightening. And I think Mark is going to bring us some techno wizardry as we thank Ben for being on the show. And
Well,
I'm
thank
sure-
you for having me.
Yeah, and we're definitely
Thanks
going
for
to
allowing me
have
to join.
a show with you, Ben, specifically. And then Sam, so happy that you came on the show. And what are some final thoughts you'd like to leave us with as Mark takes us out?
Don't hate too much because then you won't be able to love. Just try to love so much that you can't hate.
Amen.
Amen to that.